Hey guys, Political Junkie 2414 here, and welcome to my next election analysis video. This time we will be taking an updated look on the 2024 presidential election and how I believe a matchup between incumbent President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump would go down. So if you haven't already noticed, I'm my voice is a little if you can't tell by my voice, I'm feeling a little bit sick today, so I might not sound the same. I might be coughing or sneezing as I record this, so just wanted to give you guys a heads up. But the show must go on, and yeah, let's get right into it. I hope you all are having a great day, and yeah, let's see how this goes. So, of course, we're right after the 2022 midterms, and honestly, things have gotten really bad for Donald Trump really fast. As you can see, he is still very much disapproved of nationwide, and since his losses, his massive losses in the 2022 midterm elections, he has been pretty much collapsing. He's been pretty much free falling in the Republican primary polls. To Ron DeSantis. I mean, it is just embarrassing. It really does show that his picks in 2022 were not were not the most effective candidates, and they were not strong candidates by any means, and most of the GOP knows that. And when you see someone like Ron DeSantis win by 20 points in a state that only went to Trump by 3, it begs the question, well, is Ron DeSantis Ron DeSantis a much more electable candidate than Donald Trump? And honestly, I believe that to be true. Trump is really a poison to the Republican Party. Um, but Joe Biden, on the other hand, his approval ratings are still pretty bad, but that really did not seem to impact Democrats in the midterms all that much. He's disapproved of right now by 11 percentage points nationwide. If we go to likely or registered voters, he's only down by about 10. Or, no, he's down by 11, around there. But when you look at all polls, you'll see that he's down by 11.2%. So Biden is not doing well in terms of approval. He is still very much in the negatives, but he is still doing very well in polls against Donald Trump. And it really does go to show how, unpopular the former president is and, the level of polarization, and a negative partisanship we have in this country. So right now, let's get started. We're gonna be filling out the safe states for Joe Biden and Donald Trump. These will be the states that go to either party by over 15 percentage points and have no realistic shot at going in the other direction. Um, DC, is obviously not a state, but that's it's still the District of Columbia. It still has multiple electoral votes, and you got Maine's first congressional district. So as you can see, Joe Biden, these are all the states that went to him by a safe margin in 2020. But I'm also going to be adding in Colorado to the list, and that is because in 2020, uh, Joe Biden won the state by 14 percentage points, and in the 2022 Senate election, Michael Bennet actually outperformed Joe Biden against Joe O'Dea, who's the GOP nominee, a very strong candidate, in my opinion, for the Republicans. But he really was not able to galvanize the base, and really, Jared Polis at the top of the ballot. Him winning by nearly 20 points really did boost Bennett's chances. So, can completely see Biden winning Colorado by over 15 percentage points when it's all said and done. Now we're going to start by filling out these safe Republican states for Donald Trump. These include Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North and South Dakota, Nebraska, Nebraska at large, and the first and third congressional districts: Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Indiana. So as you can see, with all of the safe states filled in, Joe Biden is at 191 electoral votes, and Donald Trump is at 113 electoral votes. So now we're going to get into the likely lean and tilt states, and these are the states that are going to be decided by less than 15 percentage points. Some of them are a lot more um, competitive than others. Some are a lot less competitive than others, or are very close to a safe mark, very close to being safe, but are not, completely out of, they're not completely safe like these other states are, like the ones that we've already filled in are. So the likely states are going to go to either Biden or Trump by anywhere from 5 to 15 percentage points. We're going to start off with Biden's likely states. The first one that we have is the state of New Mexico. I believe that Biden will win the state by around 8 or 9 percentage points. Not too much, not too different from his performance in 2020 when he won the state by 11 points. It's interesting how New Mexico has trended to the right in comparison. In relate has become more voted to the right of Colorado. In 2020, it shows how left trending Colorado is, and potentially showing that New Mexico is becoming more competitive in is becoming a more competitive state. But at the end of the day, it's still a blue state, and it really doesn't shift all that much. Hillary Clinton won it by about 8 points in 2016, and I don't really expect Biden to do much worse than he did last time around. Next, we have Maine at large, where I think that Biden's going to win the state, win the at large vote in Maine by around probably 7 or 8 points. It won't be too much different from his margin last time. Um, I do think that Biden's he has a very strong, he did a lot better than Hillary Clinton did in Maine. But it is still a state that is trending to the right, and Trump did do fairly well here in the second congressional district and the state at large in 2016 and 2020, so I don't believe that it is completely out of the question for the state to be a little bit closer than expected, but it's still going to go to the Democrats nonetheless. Then we have the state of Virginia, which is very left trending. Trump is not, a good fit for this state. He lost it by 10 points in 2020. Which is the largest margin that a Democrat has won Virginia by, since Franklin Roosevelt in 1944. And it really does go to show that Virginia is a very left trending state, and how bad of a candidate Donald Trump is for the Republican Party in some of in the suburban areas of Virginia, and just in general. He's pushed off a lot of traditionally conservative voters. And, it's, even though Republicans did have that big win in Virginia, last year in the governor's race, that was a more localized race, and Glenn Youngkin is no Donald Trump. He is a much better candidate, and a lot more moderate of a Republican. So I believe that's it for all of our. Oh wait, no, we have Minnesota, which is the last one. So I think that this will be around the same. I think it'll be about a 5 or 6 point margin for Biden. It won't be that impressive of a margin, but Minnesota's still a blue state. It does, it's not a solid blue state, but Biden did. It's still a state that has a very long history of voting Democratic, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So now we'll get into the likely states for Donald Trump. We have the state of Alaska, which will probably go to Trump by low double digit, by around 10 or I, I'm not exactly sure what the exact margin will be on, just kind of giving my thoughts on these, obviously. But Trump will probably win the state by a little bit more than he did in 2020. It is still, it's Alaska is a state that is moving slightly to the left, but it still has a very long, history of, it still has a very long Republican history, and it is still, it's still, even though Mary Peltola had a very impressive showing, by winning that Alaska special election, in 2022, and it looks like she's probably going to win the general election, whenever we get the final votes in the for the election in November. We still don't have a call from Alaska, but Trump is going to win this state. There's not a doubt in my mind. And yeah. So now we're gonna go to South Carolina, which will also be a likely state, probably around a a 12 or 13 point margin of victory for Trump. It's a very it's a it's probably not going to be all that competitive, and there's really no reason to believe that it would be. We also have the state of Florida, which will probably go to Trump by around 6 or 7 points. Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio crushed Charlie Crist and Val Demings in the state this November. Florida is really a right trending state. It's not really all that competitive anymore. And, it is a presidential year, so I do believe, and Trump is a more controversial candidate. So I do believe that, Florida is not quite a safe red state yet, but it is definitely not as competitive as it once was. So it's going to be a likely red state. We have the state of Iowa, which will vote for Trump, and I do believe, that I'm sorry, I'm just, really, really kind of out of it, but we also have the state of Iowa, which will probably go to Trump by a double digit margin. Um, but I think it'll be around an 11 or 12 point victory. It's a very right trending state, and Trump has a lot of appeal here in the Rust Belt area. So I think that he's going to win Iowa pretty handily, along with the state of Ohio, probably by around 9 or 10 points. It's also a very right trending state, and it is not the swing state that it once was. So, Iowa and Ohio are going to be pretty strong victories for Trump, and also Maine's second congressional district will probably go to Trump by about the same margin, as it did in 2020, maybe a little bit larger. So now we have, how many states is that? One, two, three, four, five. We have these remaining 9 states, which are going to be the most competitive states. They are, the lean or tilt states. These are the states that are truly competitive battlegrounds and, are going to be decided by less than 5 percentage points. We're going to start off with the lean states, which will go to either Biden or Trump by anywhere from 1 to 5 percentage points. We'll go ahead and start with Biden's with Trump's lean red states, and the first one that we have is the state of North Carolina. Trump is probably going to win it by around 2 or 3 points. Maybe a little bit larger, but it is North Carolina. While it is still a very competitive state, it's probably not going to be as strong of it's definitely a state that can go to the Democratic Party, but 99% of the time Democrats do not have the amounts of the momentum needed, do not have the numbers needed to drive up black turnout to win the state. But I do believe, North Carolina will become a blue state eventually, and it's definitely possible that Trump does lose the state, but I don't think he will. It's still North Carolina, and it's still a state that has a very long that does vote for the GOP most of the time. We also have the state of Texas, which will go to Trump. In my opinion. I do think it will be closer than it was in 2020. It's a very left trending state, and Trump is not a good candidate for the suburbs of Texas. Beto O'Rourke did not have a very good showing in Texas this year against Greg Abbott. And while Abbott is a lot more polarizing than he was 4 years ago, he is still, someone who's been able to rank up very large margins, and you know, he definitely has a lot better of appeal than Trump does in a lot of these in the state. So I do believe that Trump will win the state by around 4 points at the end of the day. Now we're going to get into Biden's lean states. First one that we have is the state of New Hampshire, which I could honestly see being likely, but I think right now I'm going to put it as a lean state because it is, it does fluctuate quite a bit between, it does fluctuate quite a bit between, sorry, I'm trying to think, uh, you know, elections. It is not a big fan of incumbents. It's got a lot of white college educated voters, but Trump is not a very good candidate for those voters. And it is, I do believe it's a lot closer to likely than it is to toss up. Excuse me. Then we also have the state of Michigan. I could see the state being tilted, but I think that Biden, does have enough momentum on his side right now to win it by around, maybe 1.5, a point and a half or 2 points. So I do think that Biden, and I think that the margins, he'll rank up large margins in Detroit with Kamala Harris on the ballot to help him with black turnout. And yeah, I don't think that, I think that Michigan is a state that while it is definitely right trending and it is absolutely a swing state, it's definitely one of the harder states for Republicans to win in the Rust Belt. Of these three, I would say Michigan is clearly the bluest. We also have the state of Nevada, which I do believe will go to Biden by around 2.5, 3 points. Um, Turnout in 2020 in Las Vegas was not super great with COVID affecting college campuses and lockdowns, which did definitely depress Democratic turnout. With younger voters, but Trump is not a good candidate for the suburbs. And Nevada is definitely a state that is trending to the right, but it's I still think that Biden has enough, energy. I do believe that, it's still going to, vote for Biden. It's still, a state that, 99% of the time goes to the Democratic Party. So, yeah. And the final characterization I have on the map is not a state, but it's Nebraska's second congressional district. It's very left trending. And Trump is another, this is another suburban area right out, that contains the area of Omaha, which, is not going to be very strong, which, has not been very strong for Republicans as of late, especially Trump. He has, pushed a lot of these moderate Republican voters away, excuse me, in this area. So I do think that Biden will win by around 4.5 or 5 points. We also have one final lean state on here for Joe Biden, that is Georgia. Trump is, an exceptionally bad candidate for the Atlanta suburbs, and I don't expect him to do much better here. I think that Biden will win the state by around 2 points. Won't be all that close in the end. Well, I mean, it'll be close because it's Georgia, but it will be a pretty impressive showing for the Democratic Party. So now we have the four remaining states, actually, the three remaining states, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Joe Biden is at 263 electoral votes. Donald Trump is at 235 electoral votes. These are the true toss-up states that are going to go to either to either candidate by under 1 percentage point. And we're going to start off with Donald Trump, and he has the state of Wisconsin as his tilt state. Wisconsin is definitely a state that's becoming very hard for Democrats to win. I could definitely see it going to Biden, considering how close it was for Ron Johnson this year, and the fact that Tony Evers pretty surprisingly won his race against Tim Michels by a pretty strong margin, all things considered. But Trump has a lot of appeal to the rural voters here, and he'll probably underperform his he'll do pretty badly in the wild counties for your traditional Republican. But at the same time, Wisconsin's still a state where the polls have massively underestimated Trump in the past. And while we had those pretty surprising polling errors in 2016, I do think that Trump is going to be able to narrowly flip back the state of Wisconsin. But the next state that I'm going to characterize for Joe Biden is going to put him over the top, and that's the state of Arizona. I do think that, the Arizona, just like Georgia, is another state that has been traditionally Republican, but has definitely trended away from the Democrats in recent years. Sorry, I'm trending towards the Democrats in recent years. Maricopa County was very strong, has trended heavily to the left. It's very much, it's turned the state blue. The McCain voters here have really, turned on the Republican Party, the Trump wing of the Republican Party. We saw Mark Kelly do very well here. Katie Hobbs do pretty well here. This year, and Joe Biden, win the county, becoming the first Democrat to win the county in a presidential election since, Harry Truman in 1948. Um, and, I do think that Arizona is going to, the Hispanic turnout is going to be strong enough for Biden to narrowly carry the state, and that puts him over the top at 274 electoral votes. But the final state, the state of Pennsylvania, I also think is going to narrowly vote for Biden. It only voted for him by a point in 2020, but Pennsylvania is another state where Trump has done increasingly worse, has done, especially, pretty badly for a Republican in the suburbs, and I do believe that that is going to cause him to lose the state once again. It's a very, swingy state. Dr. Oz lost by an exceptionally large margin, this year, as well as Doug Mastriano, although that one was more expected. Um, than not. But Pennsylvania is a state that I think is Biden definitely is going to have a tougher time winning it, especially with the rural areas coming out heavily for Trump, and possibly Democratic turnout dropping somewhat from 2020. But I still think it's going to be a very impressive showing that Biden. Is he's Biden is still I do think is going to be able to win the state. He's still from or he's not from Pennsylvania, he's from Delaware, but he was born in Scranton, and I still believe he does have that Scranton boy appeal that helped him win the state in 2020. So after all that rambling, we have the final map here. Joe Biden winning re-election, winning re-election to a second term, at 82 years old for 293 electoral votes. Trump only gets 200, loses with 245 electoral votes, but he does flip the state of Wisconsin, but still comes up short in the rest of the swings of the major swing states. And Biden is reelected, to another term in the White House at 82 years old. He becomes the and he would becomes the oldest president to ever be. He becomes the oldest president, I guess, ever reelected in American history. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Sorry that the my voice was really soggy and that I kind of was a little out of it, but I'm not feeling well, and I'm trying my best. But hope you all enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Share the video. Turn on notifications, so you don't miss another one. Check out my non-political channel, Interactor127, and my second channel, and my comrades channel, Growling Zoo 6.